take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking on Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing this week, man?
I am good. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good, man. We got a lot to talk about, so let's just get right to it.
Yes,
Of
sir.
course, we'll start with the big dance. NCAA basketball selection shows a little bit earlier today as we record Sunday night. Are tied a 4 seed in the West region taking on Charleston in their opening round game. Uh, if they advance from that, they will take on the winner of St. Mary's and who do they
Grand
play?
Canyon. Grand
Grand Canyon.
Canyon.
That's right. Grand Canyon. And if we get past that to the Sweet 16, a possible date with 1 seed North Carolina in it.
Yeah.
But let's hold up there before we get too far ahead. Of course, we got here. Probably didn't help ourselves seating wise. A bad loss. What was that? Friday to Florida in
Yeah.
the SEC tournament. Just
Yeah.
didn't look good at all.
No.
No phases of the game. Coach Oates has come out and talked about a lack of energy, specifically when if the shots aren't falling, there's not a lot of energy on defense.
No, we talked about
Um,
that.
yeah, we talked about that. Yeah. So, uh, so Greg, talk about one. Just what do you think about Coach Oates' his comments and and all that, and then how do you like our matchups in our little side of the bracket?
Well, I mean, the comments kind of worrisome. I mean, it's March and we're still looking for energy. Like, I understand. Like, I mean, it wasn't do or die in the SEC tournament like it was for like A&M or State. So, I mean, we didn't necessarily have to win a game, but you would have liked to have seen a lot more urgency. I mean, considering we had just lost to Florida
Hmm.
but a little over a week prior to that in a similar fashion, you would have thought they would have came out differently. We actually started the game off. We started off high. I mean, we went up 8-0. I mean, it was our fastest start in a while. And then the last 5 minutes of the half, we just died. I don't know what happened. Like it was ridiculous. And then we just were out of it for the rest of the game. But, um, but hey, it's a new season now. March Madness. Things change. But I don't know. We actually have the Charleston game's a little worrisome actually, because Charleston's actually a very good team. If we come out lackluster in any fashion, I mean, we might be going home very fast.
Yeah, red hot team. Um,
Yeah, they're a
Won
good
winners
team.
of their last 12 in a row, I believe.
Hmm.
And they are a little bit similar to us. Um,
They can
in
score
that
points.
yeah, they can score points and their defense can be lackluster at times. So
Yeah, because
hopefully that's yeah.
in that conference championship game, they let the other team. I forget. I can't even think who they played, but I remember watching and they let them back in the game big time. I mean, they're blowing them out. They went to overtime. They tried to give it up there at the end, but yeah, I mean, they're a very talented team on the offensive end. I guess the most worrisome thing is teams that are great on offense. We have had trouble with all season. We haven't shut down any good offensive teams yet. So
Mm-hmm.
especially when we're not like Coach Oates said, and we've said, and probably everybody who's watched Alabama said, when we don't shoot well, our defense goes out the window real quickly. Not that
Mm-hmm.
it's a great defense, but I mean, you at least want to see maximum effort. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're losing and you just run into a better team, it is what it is. But when you're seeing, I mean, Florida had no, I mean, they were, I mean, they look like both the last two times we played Florida. Now, honestly, they probably should have beat us in Tuscaloosa as well. you know, um, and really, I haven't seen a good defensive effort outside of Coleman all year, and that's more, I think, the crowd energy than anything. Even whether it be in Nashville, on the road, neutral side games, we just haven't played defense outside Coleman. So
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously
It,
we have the talent to get out the first weekend, but do we? Is there a passion to want to? I don't know.
mhm. Yeah, and like you said, hopefully there's something that they find the spark because it's do or die. They realize the stakes, particularly
Hmm.
some of those senior leaders, guys that might be playing their last,
Right.
high level
And
competitive
then
basketball
we know for
games.
sure it's Estrada's last college game. Very well
Hmm.
could be Mark Sears' last game. I mean, it could be Reitzel's last game. I mean, I think both of those guys can come back if they wanted to. Um, Grant Nelson may be probably his last game. Um, but I mean, they could all. I think all three of those could come back. I think Estrada's the only one who's completely run out of eligibility. So be interesting, but yeah, at this point of the year, I guess the biggest thing is you don't want to be questioning whether your team is all in or not. I think we
Yeah,
still have those questions.
yeah, and that's a particular worry. Like you said, it's too late in the year for that. You don't want your coach making those type of statements.
Right.
And yeah, it's not good when we say, well, we hope that something clicks between your conference tournament and the NCAA,
Yeah.
but that's happened before. That
Yeah.
things like that do happen. So, and Charleston is a tricky matchup for sure, but I do
Yeah.
think with
It's
the
a
weaker
winnable one.
offense, yeah, it's I do think it's kind of a good uh mini little bracket for us. I think we could match up well with St. Mary's,
Hmm.
assuming they get by Grand Canyon. Of course, they're
Yeah.
the West Coast Conference champions. Um, they're a good team, but they don't have any like killers like, last year when we
Right.
played Gonzaga and Drew Timmy just, ate us up.
Right.
They don't kind of have that real guy, the big threat in there.
Hmm.
And then, you get to the Sweet 16, that's when anything can happen. And of course,
Right.
North Carolina would be favored over us, and they're a really hot team right now.
Yeah.
Um, but they're beatable. Yeah.
Yeah. Unbeatable. But we
Um,
got a long way till then. I made a post earlier. I think
mhm,
either A, we lose to Charleston, or at least we'll make it into that second weekend.
mm,
And
yeah.
I mean, it's either we either gonna come out and do big things, or we're just gonna go out quick. I don't think it's any in between.
Yeah.
We're either gonna
Uh,
click and go to the Sweet 16 at the minimum, or we're just gonna go home really early. I mean, there's some good things and some bad things with it. I mean, of course, I mean, look on the bright side. I mean, this will be our fourth year straight in the tournament. I mean, that's the first time since we were in college that that's happened.
mm-hmm.
Um, you know, um, we're getting Nate Oates back. Of course, with that Michigan job opening up, there was a concern that he was going to go to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
We got a heck of a recruiting class coming in, so the future is bright. But man, I just feel like this team is good enough to achieve greatness. At least see that second weekend. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I have too high of an expectation, but I just feel like we've underachieved a little bit more than what we should have this year. I think we're a
For
better team than what we've shown.
No, absolutely, and what you mentioned about expectation, I think that's becoming. We've often said, we've been saying since we were in school there that a program with the resources that Alabama has, there's no reason it shouldn't be a consistent NCAA tournament team. Like the
Hmm.
streaks we go on where we miss the tournament and we're playing the NIT, it really should be unacceptable
Right.
in an athletic program like ours, with as
Yeah.
much resources, as much money as we have. And
Yeah.
Alabama's not a bad basketball state for recruiting.
No.
There's a lot of
No. There's a
talented
lot of
players
talent.
that, mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
and then we get a guy like Nate Oates in here. He's played an NBA, style offense. Like guys see it,
Hmm.
they want to play. He's a great recruiter. You mentioned we
Yeah.
locked him up. We got him. He got a great extension. Will
Big
make him
deal.
one of the top 5 highest paid coaches in the country.
Yeah.
Um, so that's great for us. Build the arena, Greg Byrne. Uh, That's
Please.
that's that's all that's next. Please build us an
Yeah.
arena.
Yeah.
But yeah, I even think we should be, especially under a guy like Oates and the way we play, we should have the expectation not just of making the tournament, but making a second weekend at
That should be
minimum every year.
yeah, that should be good. That should be some of
Up,
the expectations. Should be
yeah, upsets do happen, of course, but there's no
yeah,
reason that I feel comfortable in saying that. Yeah, if we as Bama fans, we should expect to beat Charleston and then beat St. Mary's and
yeah.
make it to face off against UNC, and then
That should
that's
happen.
where. Yeah, and that's
Who
where we
knows?
can, subdue our
If you lose to
expectations.
North
Like,
Carolina, that's I
okay, yeah,
mean, yeah. We
it's
lost to
North Carolina.
RJ
They're a one
RJ
seed.
Davis.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
outside of the miracle run by NC State, they probably win the conference
yeah,
tournament as well as the regular season. You
yeah.
know,
There is playing. They're a team that's playing as well as any team in the country right now. I know.
exactly.
So yeah, the rest of our bracket there. Um, North Carolina, they play the winner of the Howard and Wagner play in. The eight
Hmm.
nine matchup's an interesting one. Mississippi State and Michigan State.
That is an interesting one.
Um,
Mississippi State went on a little heater this weekend. Got
they
the big
did. They
win.
played themselves into the tournament off the bubble. Yeah,
Yeah.
blew Tennessee out the water
Man,
in
did they?
Nashville.
Yeah.
Didn't nobody saw that coming. Um,
No. Not to that
so,
extent. I mean, I wasn't shocked they won because, they're
mhm,
fighting for their lives, but the way that they dominated that game.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Seeing that
and
score line,
then,
I didn't get to watch the game, but seeing that score line and then looking at
yeah,
highlights and reading the stats, like, damn.
yeah, they just went crazy. And then
Mhm,
they, play when they play Auburn next. I mean, they lost to Auburn, but Auburn was on
mhm,
fire all weekend. Like they played, it's
mhm.
probably the best Auburn looked all season.
Yeah, that Auburn's team getting hot at the right time. Of course, they went on to
Yeah,
win the tournament today, beat
yeah,
Florida,
yeah,
earned themselves a 4 seed.
they did.
Uh, so yeah, of course, you root for state, whatever state wins, you root for them to pull the upset over UNC. And I like our matchups against, obviously we beat
Oh yeah,
state, what, twice this year?
twice,
Um,
pretty
yeah,
handily both times.
yeah. And then Michigan
Probably our
State,
best
even though it's
wins
a,
of the season.
yeah, yeah.
And we
Michigan State's not, a classic Michigan State team this year.
no, they're okay. They haven't
Yeah,
been Michigan State that we
in a
thought
little
of
bit.
for a
Yeah.
while. And they're a team that we actually beat the year. Well, we beat them. Of course, way different, but we beat them last season in
Hmm.
in one of those holiday tournaments. So completely different game. But yeah, we had the opportunity to have a run there. But it's just a matter of how we want to come out and play. Um,
Yeah. Waiting
just
on
the
the other.
main thing is,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
how the main thing is just how we respond if things don't fall. When the shots don't fall, you got to keep playing. Like we just, oh man, we just get that. Oh man,
Yeah,
we
it's like
can't
you
do
see
that.
the body language, and that's what Oates
Yeah,
was talking about. He said you see this body language, and you see them not hustle, and he made a point of that. Making a big play on defense can ignite your offense too.
hmm
You get a couple of steals, some easy fast
yeah,
break points, a big
because that's
block to
what
rile everybody up, a transition
right.
three here or there.
Because that's where we do our best work is going out of transition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you think that would so? Hey, it's a new season, and hopefully the guys are ready to go. That's all we can hope for. They have a great opportunity to make it to play North Carolina Sweet 16.
And
Do they want it or not? Who knows?
yeah, yeah, and on the plus side, we'll be coming in with a fully healthy roster.
hmm
Rather than Griffin back.
Yep.
So hopefully, they have a good week of practice. And of course, that game is Friday. It looks like the
Yep.
time has actually been
6:30.
released. Yep, 6:35 Central Time.
That's good.
Um,
Be off work home.
mhm, yeah,
It's a good thing.
well,
You
that's
know,
good. I need to check
as
that.
that
Do I got any events?
in that 4-13 matchup, I was thrilled that because for a while people were thinking we're playing Sanford, and I was like that'd be horrible. I'm
Oh
so
yeah,
happy we're not playing Sanford.
Yeah.
because
Good.
they're playing Kansas at that 4:13. Just because,
Mm-hmm.
man, the little school out of Alabama playing the big dogs. Come on,
Oh, never good.
they
Never good. Yeah.
that would have been. I was like, Lord, please don't let us play Sanford, because I figured we were the 4 seed, and I saw us projected throughout the weekend as playing Sanford. I man, I don't want to see them
Mm-mm.
at all.
Sanford and avoided UAB too, who
Yeah.
good for
Ooh,
the Blazers,
interesting.
man. What was it
What?
last week? Couple weeks ago, I had that game versus they were
Yeah,
playing
they got
Memphis,
throttled by
and
Memphis.
they blew a huge lead. They blew like a
Hmm.
20 some point lead and lost by 20 something.
Yeah,
And I think I even tweeted it or something. I said like, well, if UAB had dreams of dancing, they were just dashed by Memphis, and then lo and
yeah.
behold, great run in the AAC tournament.
Great run.
Uh, and they're in. So yeah, rest of Alabama's bracket on the other side, you got our 2 seed is Arizona. They'll play Long Beach State. Dayton,
Hmm.
Nevada is your 7-10.
Hmm.
Baylor's your 3 seed. They're going against Colgate, and then Clemson is their 6 seed against 11 seed New Mexico. I kind of like New Mexico, the Lobos right
I
there.
do like New Mexico. I like New Mexico.
Uh,
Well, I watched a lot of them this weekend.
mhm.
And that's sometimes a dangerous thing, because you start liking the team a little bit, just how they've been
Mhm.
playing. They wanting to run, go deep in the tournament. And oh man, but they have a lot of legacy players on there. They got Eddie House's kid, Jamal Mashburn Jr.,
Mhm.
Rick Pitino Jr. is the coach. I mean,
Mhm.
the Obi brother plays
Oh,
on. I mean,
Toppin.
they got Toppin's brother play. Yeah, couldn't even think of his name. Yeah, Obi Toppin's brother plays on that team. They're a talented bunch there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun tournament. The Mountain West, man, they were a very solid conference for sure. Got as
It's
many
a
teams in as the Big Ten.
yeah, it is a serious conference right there. The Mountain West is definitely one of the tougher conferences in the league in the
For sure.
country. And where? I'm sorry, I'm looking for something here. But so yeah, looking elsewhere. So our other 1 seeds, UConn is your number one overall seed. They're
Yeah,
playing like the defending champs. They are
yeah.
a dangerous team. Interesting matchups around and notes. We mentioned UAB in there in a 12 seed against San Diego State. Um, that's an
It's an
interesting
interesting
matchup to watch
matchup.
right there. Yeah, and then they're paired up too against
They
Auburn.
play
Auburn
Auburn.
is the 4 seed. They play Yale, the Ivy
Yeah,
League champs. And I'm looking around this bracket. Did Princeton get snubbed?
and yeah, they're not in.
Oh
Yale's
wow.
the only. Yeah.
Oh,
That
that's
loss
a
to Brown, that loss to Brown yesterday really hurt them though. 'Cause what?
yeah.
No, they did not get in.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's rough. Yeah.
that's tough. Yeah,
Let's see. Other teams that were snubbed, just real quick. Indiana State.
yeah. Indiana State, Pitt. I was kind of shocked Pitt didn't get in. I thought they'd done
Yeah.
enough.
St.
Jeff
John's,
K.
the big run they
Yeah,
made did not.
didn't. But they were. I don't know. I mean, I understand why they didn't get in. I mean, they got
Yeah.
kind of hot, but I mean, they went on a thing where they lost like 8 games in a row. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I get why they didn't get in. Um, you know, if Rick Pitino wasn't the coach, we wouldn't give anything about St. John's, honestly.
No,
you know,
yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
yeah. So
Um.
I mean, I understand it. And he was pissed today. He was on he got interviewed somewhere talking about the committee's a joke.
Oh yeah, they're not even. They've already denied their They're not even going to play in NIT.
Oh well,
They're mad about it.
I'm
But
like,
elsewhere, let's see.
get over yourself, guys. I mean, it's been a
Yeah,
while since
it's
St.
okay.
John's,
Yeah. Yale, by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen that, but
but
won on a buzzer beater. Um, won the Ivy League tournament. The Ivy League does a little 4-team tournament now, and a buzzer beater to send yourself to the NCAA tournament. It's hard to beat. Um,
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah,
a and that would have been crazy though. Brown had won that because they would have been like 17 and 19, I think. They would have been a
something.
couple
Yeah.
games under 500 if they had held on there against Yale today.
hmm Uh, Duquesne, they're the Dukes of Duquesne. Interesting note for their first tournament in 47 years. So good for them. Iowa
Did you see
State.
any of that A10 tournament?
I did not.
It
No, no,
was
no.
it was wild. Just everybody. I mean, everybody lost.
Mm,
Like all the big, I think was it Friday? Like all the top seed teams all lost on the same day. It
mm.
was a crazy tournament. Like,
Well, there were, as Joe Lenardi puts it, there were five bid stealers this year.
mhm,
Five teams that won their conference tournaments and thus took
yeah,
the automatic the bids. We mentioned NC State earlier, a surprise run to the ACC title. Oregon, a Pac-12 title. New
yeah,
Mexico, that Mountain West title.
yeah,
Duquesne, we mentioned them; they were a surprise win there, and then
yeah.
Florida Atlantic um, lost, so they're actually not in, and that loss would uh, kind of open the gates for a bubble team to lose their
Right.
spot. So
No.
some of these teams we mentioned, maybe a Princeton, Indiana State, could have got in otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, talking about other interesting to see some SEC team. Houston, they're one seed in the South region. No surprise there. Texas
No.
A&M, a 9 seed in that region. The team with the longest winning streak, current active winning streak, James Madison, a 12 seed against Wisconsin, the 5 seed. That's an
Watch
interesting one to
out.
watch.
Watch out for that one. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Duke
We know
playing
about the rest.
Vermont, which, if I remember right, that was a big upset a while back, right? Didn't Vermont upset Duke?
Well, um,
Um,
I remember
uh,
beating Syracuse. I don't remember
is that
beating.
it? Yeah, Vermont
Yeah,
upset.
they beat Syracuse back when we were in college. I remember that. Um,
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm trying to think. Who am I thinking of that Duke lost to first round one year? Nah, it'll come to me.
They've had a few few
Yeah, they
good
got a
ones.
few of
I
them,
know
but yeah, there's one.
they lost to Belmont before.
Hmm.
They lost to when we were in school. They lost to VCU, and that's why we're so excited about Anthony Grant coming to Alabama.
That that's what I'm remembering. The VCU one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Let's see, SEC team Duke, or excuse me, Kentucky is a 3 seed in that region as well. Florida a 7 seed. Kentucky plays Oakland. Of course, remember they're not in Oakland; they're actually from what, Detroit, right? Uh,
Michigan, yeah, Detroit area.
yeah. And then Florida, the 7 seed in that, they play the winner of a Boise State Colorado play-in game, which that's a
And
tough
they,
matchup for them either way.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and they lost their big man today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very unfortunate. Really early in that game too.
That's a tough out right before the tournament because he's not. It's a serious injury, so that you hate
Mm-hmm.
to see that. But they've been playing good. Florida, the last month has been playing some really good basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and they're a team that
so
plays hot, fast
yeah,
offense, so they can make a run too, and they play
they
a little bit
could.
better defense than we do.
Oh yeah,
Let's see, Midwest region. You got Purdue as your 1 seed there, of course. Um, you mentioned Kansas, Samford. Interesting 4-13 matchup. South
very
Carolina, the
interesting.
great year they had, they get Oregon in a 6-11 matchup. Tennessee, a 2 seed, maybe cost himself that 1 seed with that loss to Mississippi State.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Uh,
Yeah,
mhm. Open it up for UNC to sneak in there and take it.
yeah.
They get St. Peter's. Um, is there anything that jumps out at you looking at the bracket? Any team that jumps out as like a Cinderella, or maybe like which 1 seed's got the easiest bracket? Anything like that
You
upon your
know,
first viewing?
just looking. If there's a time when when I would say if there's a time that Purdue actually goes deep in the tournament, they had their struggles over that time. We know their big loss last year. Their bracket's not that bad. They possibly play Tennessee in the eight, but prior to that, they should not lose. I mean,
No, yeah.
Purdue should. I mean, obviously they're trying to. We know they lost the 116 matchup last year. Don't see that happening again. I don't
Mm-mm,
see them losing to the Utah State TCU winner.
mm-mm.
Um, you know, it could play Kansas. I mean, I'm not. Kansas had all those injuries, got blown out by Cincy. Don't know who's all coming back this week yet.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if they beat Sanford. Gonzaga McNeese State is an interesting game. But I mean, I don't see them, really losing other than possibly Tennessee. And I say that as, I don't know. I just, just because their history's been so lackluster as far as when they've had a good team. But I think they have a kind of easy road to the Elite Eight.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with that. That's and remember when Virginia was the first one seed to lose to a
Yeah,
16 seed, they came
they
back
came
next year,
back
won
on
the
the
whole thing.
title.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's pretty good motivation for our small sample size.
yeah.
Um,
But I mean, they're a team. I mean, they've had some weird. I mean, if you not even just last year, if you go back and look at Purdue's last 10
mhm.
tournament games, I mean, they've had some weird and some tough losses against teams. You would think, man, how did they lose that game?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But that's one that does stick out to me there. But the other one, I mean, I just, UConn, I mean, I'd be shocked if they don't make it to the Final Four just because they play good ball all year. I mean, you
Hmm.
look, they went had three losses all the regular season. Two was at Kansas and at Creighton. Two tournament teams, and Kansas was healthy at that point. So I mean, two losses, you're not. I mean, they're not, and then came back and ran through the Big East tournament. I mean, we very well could see a repeat champion. It wouldn't shock me at all.
No, yeah, and we mentioned they're probably the hottest team in the country right now.
No, yeah,
They're just playing lights out. They blew through
yeah,
that Big East tournament. Um,
yeah, they did. And I
um,
mean, the
yeah,
two seed on that side is Iowa State. I mean, they're good, but I mean, they're not. I mean, they're a good team, and I mean, kudos to them blowing out Houston yesterday. But I mean,
mhm.
I don't. I just
I
don't see
just
anybody
don't know.
beating UConn out there.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the horses, the guns to go,
No.
toe to toe with UConn. But hey, that's what March is for.
Yep.
Um, any kind of Cinderellas that popped out at you that you kind of like their first round matchup and maybe some could spark them a run?
Well, I mean, I do like. I mentioned the Kansas game. I mean, I do like I mean, Sanford is an interesting one. On the other, um, I said I do like New Mexico. I could see them making a run,
Hmm.
but I mean that could be a very interesting game in that 32 where they play against Baylor. I mean
Hmm.
that could be a entertaining game right there. But I could see them having a good run. But I mean, I like Sanford in that first round. And then I also, I mean, there's a lot of matchups that could go either way. That's what's gonna be great about this tournament. I mean, you look at some of these games, you're like, man, you could definitely go either way easily.
Yeah, and it's I always look at these teams that make these hot runs too. Like do they keep their momentum?
Yeah, because it's
Through
tough.
so it is, yeah. That break it kind of slows you down.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
like a
all
team like
the
UAB, real
yeah,
hot, a great run in their conference tournament, and they get a
hmm
tough matchup with a San Diego State team that played in the
yeah,
title game last year. Not the same team, not as good this year, but
no,
still, I
but they're
mean,
still good. They're still
and
good.
then
They're
yeah, if
still
you
well
win that, you're
coached. Yeah.
probably running into Auburn. But I would think if you're an Auburn fan, you don't want any part of UAB for the same reason that
No,
we didn't want Sanford. Yeah, you don't want to play
no,
little brother, so to say.
yeah. You don't play the
Um,
little guys out the state. They probably feel snubbed that they couldn't get to
mm-mm.
Alabama or Auburn.
Yeah. James Madison mentioned there that the longest active winning streak in the country right now. I kind of like them
I do
against the
like.
Wisconsin team.
I do like that. Yeah, that's another one. I
Yeah.
do like that.
Yeah.
Not only is it the 5-12, but I'm very weary about Big Ten teams because
Hmm.
a lot of Big Ten teams have had great regular seasons. Wisconsin had a good run. You know, they lost today in the championship game, but I mean, they had a good run. Um, Big Ten teams just have not fared well in the NCAA tournament recently.
I know. We've talked about it, for all the talk about them being, one of the bigger
Such a
bear
such a great
conferences.
basketball conference. They
Haven't won a
one
title
time
since Mateen
2000.
Cleaves and, yeah, Michigan State back in
That was
2000. Yeah.
2000.
Yeah. It's 24 years ago now, y'all.
Yeah.
A quarter century. Um,
As much as
yeah, I
they
like that.
people want to complain about the SEC
Mhm.
always Big Ten folks always claim they're such a powerful basketball conference, but yeah, I mean the titles are saying otherwise. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about is national titles in the long run.
Yeah. So end of the day, yeah, I like that. And then, a Duke possible matchup with Duke in the second round there. Uh the Dukies haven't been playing great this year. They've
No,
been
man.
really inconsistent team this year.
Yeah, I mean they're okay. I
Mhm.
mean they can score. They're soft. I mean they've been soft for a while now. I mean it's just for back in the day, I mean, Duke was known for hard nosed defense. I mean,
Mhm.
they had a lot of workhorses. I think Duke kind of changed when they went all in on that. Because for a while they had a mix of All Americans, but then they also had those hardworking guys. Your good
Mhm.
role players. Like Steve Wojciechowski. Where he
Mhm.
slapped the court and everything. They completely got away from that type of player at all. And since they've done that, they just have not been as good as what they once were. There's no people that you're just like, the hardworking guys, him,
They used to
you know,
have a guy on their roster every season
hmm
that everyone else hated.
yeah, they
And they
don't have
don't
that
have
anymore.
those guys anymore. No, and,
No,
whether it be like a JJ Redick, a Greg Paulus,
yeah,
um,
Grayson
uh,
Allen,
yeah, Grayson Allen. That's the dude I was thinking. They always had one of those guys,
yeah,
and like you said, next to their big studs,
yeah,
and then kind of the one and done and all that kind of they changed up their recruiting a little bit to
yeah,
kind of keep pace. But it, like you said, you need
they
those role
hurt him.
players. You need those.
Yeah, because I mean
Uh,
they've had outstanding recruiting classes. I
mhm,
mean even the end of Coach K's, I mean they had nothing but 5 stars. I mean they
mhm.
weren't. I mean because back in the day, there's no way that the Duke teams would have let Coach K lose to North Carolina at
And
home
is
in his last
uh
game, and then turn
no.
around and lose to him again in the Final Four semis.
Oh no, yeah, those
Shane
some of
Battier,
those.
Jay Will, that
Woo,
would
no.
never happen.
Chris Duhon, guys like
Yeah,
that. Elton
instead of
Brand.
yeah,
Uh,
it's just
yeah, those guys, would have, like
that's
you said,
not
they would have never. Like you think Christian Leitner would have let that happen? You're fooling
Grant Hill.
yourself. No. Oh yeah,
I
those
mean,
guys.
they're not letting Coach K go out with two
They might
losses to
they might have
Carolina in his last season.
they might have gone out swinging literally, but
Yeah,
like they're yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, and so
it's
like
just
yeah,
not
that's
the
why
same.
that's why looking at that, I haven't filled out brackets yet, but
Yeah, I haven't either. But Vermont might be that's a tough out for him.
that's tough. Or maybe that James Madison, maybe that's because a double
Yeah,
digit seed has reached the Sweet 16 in what, like 10, 11 straight years, something like that, some
that
double
they
digit
have.
number.
That they
So
have.
that's something to think about.
Hmm.
And we will be doing a bracket challenge again this year, taking on sports. So look for that. I will get that done right after we finish recording here. I'll set that up for everybody. We'll put it on our socials to remind you too, by the way. But yeah. So like I said, looking for those teams that made that run. Like at NC State. Can carry that.
And they
They got
continue. And I
yeah
mean, they
Texas
went on
Tech. That's an interesting
5.
matchup.
Yeah.
I think they
But I
could. They
mean, they
can.
won 5 games in 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just how do they rebound? I mean, we've seen it. We saw UConn do it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've also seen the other teams like one year Syracuse went on a heater and won, but then they lost in like the first round because they were
Mm-hmm.
tired.
Yeah.
Um, I
So
mean,
yeah,
they
so are
went on.
these 3 days
Yeah.
in between? They play Thursday night.
Hmm.
Is it yeah? How do you find that balance between
Yep.
rest and keeping sharp?
Yeah.
We mention that all the time in pro sports with teams that get the buys.
Yeah.
How do you keep your momentum from the season going and you
And
don't
those are
get cold?
professionals, and those are
Mm-hmm.
professionals, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
always figure it out. So
Yeah.
we're talking about 18, 19-year-old kids. I mean,
Yeah.
that's even tougher. But I mean, they just went on a heater these 5 in a
Mm.
row to even make the tournament. Because I mean, if they didn't beat North Carolina yesterday, they're not even in.
Yeah.
They just got to 20. They got above 20 wins because of the tournament. I think they went in at 17 and 14 prior to this 5 games. So
Um, let's see where else. Anything interesting? Mm, nothing else really pops out at me. I
um,
think Houston might have a pretty easy road to at least the Elite Eight there.
yeah, yeah.
Their 8-9 is Nebraska A&M. I think that's
Yeah, I mean that's
they
a. I mean A
take out
and M.
either of
A
them.
and M is a tough team though. I mean they've been playing some good ball.
Mm.
They're finally playing to the level that people thought that they were going to play at all year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean they were the big. I mean, excuse me, the SEC favorites going into the season,
Mm-hmm.
and they came on at the end. But for a while they were struggling. But I mean they had a good SEC tournament. They blew out Kentucky. Um, But we're blowing Florida out and let Florida back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That lost yesterday. I mean, they're playing good. But going up again, the interesting thing here, just work with a whole bunch of Nebraska people. They're trying to get their first tournament win of all time.
Oh
They never
wow,
won a tournament game. Yeah.
I did not know that.
So,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Um, But yeah, so Houston gets by them, then their matchup is what we just talked about with that Wisconsin, James Madison, Duke, Vermont,
Hmm.
and I think Houston
Yeah, I
should
think Houston
easily be
has tough
favored
as
over
well.
any of those teams. Yeah,
Yeah, because that's
and
one
so
thing
they get.
is no one's seen the defense like Houston. If you're not in the Big 12 and haven't run into them a couple times, I don't think you know what you're getting into. you know,
Yeah, you're in for a rough day. Um,
they're
uh, the
physical.
uh, the other side of their bracket, on the other hand, when they get to the Elite Eight, that's where you're going to face a team that has gone through the fire because I think that's a pretty tough side. So you got Texas Tech, NC State. They
Hmm.
play the winner, Kentucky, Oakland. So probably Kentucky, a Kentucky team that maybe kind of toward the end of the year has figured it out with their stars. Like you said,
Hmm.
not a great showing in the SEC tournament, but it's still a talented team, really talented.
Right, but to be fair,
Mark,
the Aggies were playing for their lives. Like, and they weren't
exactly,
getting in
yeah,
without a win. So I mean, that
yeah, they
changes
were
a little bit.
desperate.
But I mean, they seem to be getting it together before that. I mean, they had the big
Hmm.
road win last weekend to close out the season against Tennessee.
Hmm.
Of course, they ran through us. I mean, they had a weird stretch in the mid in February where they lost 2 or 3 times at Rupp. But recently, they've been playing better ball. They're a
Hmm.
talented team, but yeah, I mean, it's just weird. I mean, they're just a team that. are always going to be under the expectations of where Kentucky fans want them to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could win that whole bracket, but do they? We'll see. You know, I mean, they could easily win this bracket. Um, but, but
They
that would
could,
be an
yeah.
excellent. Yeah, I mean, them and Houston in an Elite Eight. That would be an epic matchup, I think.
Well, it's close, but they also have to get through that Sweet 16. So your two seed down there is Marquette. They play Western Kentucky. Marquette's a very good team.
Yeah,
And then the 7-10 matchup is Florida, and they'll play the winner of the Virginia Colorado State playing game. I think Florida kind of got shafted a little bit on their seed. They should be more like
yeah,
a 5 seed to me.
yeah. I mean, seven's kind of low.
So
That's some
that's
tough matchups.
that's rough for Marquette right there in the second round. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then maybe, Kentucky Florida matchup, an SEC rival.
yeah.
And I tell you what, I wouldn't
With the
mind
regular
seeing a
season,
Houston
yeah,
Florida Elite Eight matchup. That Houston defense against that Florida offense would be fun
that
to
would be fun.
watch.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But yeah, that might, yeah, that South bracket, yeah, the bottom half is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, that might be like because you got some big hitters. Like I think any of the three, Kentucky, Florida, Marquette, can go on and
Hmm.
get to that Final Four.
Yep.
I don't think Tech or
I don't
I don't
think,
think they
yeah,
have it this year, but they're a well coached team, but they always play
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, there's just it's one of those years where we mentioned it all year. There hasn't been one team to really separate themselves from the pack. Maybe this last couple weeks now, teams like UConn,
UConn's kind of changed a little bit.
yeah,
I say
really, and that.
they're the most elite team. And,
Hmm.
I mean, going into the weekend, I mean, Houston, I thought was right there. I mean, they're still right there, but the
Hmm.
fact that they got humbled against Iowa State, I don't know what that means because these conference tournaments are weird because they tell you something, but then they really don't. The
Yeah.
Houston. I mean, when you already have the one seed locked up, I mean, is it harder to get motivated to win a Big 12 title? I don't know. I don't. I don't know what the motivation was for that game.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sure they didn't want to lose. I mean, it was kind of shocking that they lost by what, almost 30 points. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, that's very unused like, but and I don't know, do you judge that in any way for the tournament or not?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it should be a fun tournament. It always is.
Yeah, but I mean, there's not too many games. That's the thing. This year, there's so many games. You're like, man, past years they'd be boom, 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 boom. Of course, it was upsets every year, but I mean,
Hmm.
the separation between the great and good is getting smaller and smaller.
Hmm.
It was. I mean, there's probably
Yeah.
like, you know, there's a lot more games you're sitting and thinking way longer than what you used to when you're filling out your bracket these days.
Hmm.
And
Which
it just has to do a lot with the one and done and just some of these mid majors. I mean, those are the guys that are staying 3 4 years, so they're building that camaraderie because those guys aren't necessarily going pros,
Hmm.
so they're able to build a great college thing. Of course, may not transition to the NBA, but we know that just your senior laden teams from the mid major conferences. This is their
Hmm.
time to shine. I mean, this is probably their last time people are gonna think about them on a national stage. So, they're coming to take out anybody, any and everybody. So,
Hmm. And yeah, and speaking of, that's what makes the tournament great. Like you said, those mid-major teams that are really cohesive, coming up against the big stars.
because they,
There were some comments by Greg Sankey this week that there haven't been talks of an all-power conference tournament, but nothing's off the table. Well, that should be off the table, Greg, because no one wants to watch a tournament that just
no,
has the you know top
uh,
8 teams from all the power
no,
conferences.
because that's what makes
Uh,
Mars special.
yeah, you can't.
No, you
It's
can't.
one thing in college football to talk about that.
I don't even want to see it in college football.
Yeah, we don't want to see it, but it's a little more
You
understandable, I
understand it.
guess. Yeah,
You understand it. But
but
I mean,
no, yeah,
basketball is
you
way
can't.
different. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
because it's
can't
just a
take
one.
away this. Yeah.
No, you can't take away that because I mean that's the spell. I mean, the upset is what draws fans in for that first weekend of March Madness. That's why
hmm
everybody plays sick on Thursday and Friday to
If
see the
you yeah,
upsets.
if you move to a power conference only tournament, you would
No,
lose
that's
all
so
of your
many fans.
casual viewers, and
Yes.
that's what they're trying to get. So
Yeah.
and it doesn't work the way that it does in college football. Like
No.
casual viewers will tune in for the Georgias versus
Yeah.
Alabamas, the Georgias
Yeah.
versus Michigans, whatever,
Uh
because
huh.
they're going to see all the guys that they're going to see on
Right.
Sunday soon.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
it don't work that way
It's
in
not the,
basketball.
especially that first round. Now, I will
hmm
say that when we get later on in the tournament, like, everybody clamors for the Cinderellas and the upsets until we get to like the final four.
Yeah, and then you want to see your
Because
Big
like
Ten square off.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like last year when we had UConn, San Diego State, Miami, and FAU,
hmm
probably the least watched Final Four of all time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which.
everybody wants to see the Cinderellas until it gets
hmm
to that Final Four, and then you want to see your blue bloods.
hmm
Understandable. I mean, your diehard college basketball fans, of course, they're going to enjoy it regardless. But yeah, your casuals want to see your Kentuckys, your Kansases, Dukes, Carolinas in the Final Four. Uh, but up until that point, yeah, no, that'd be just that'd be terrible. Because I mean, college basketball, it's hard enough to keep an audience, and if they did that, no, they can't. Not
Yeah.
even an option.
But yeah, any other thoughts on tournament or college hoops before we move on?
No, I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a
All
fun
right.
tournament.
Well,
Can't
speaking of
wait.
tournaments, the all the FBS conferences in Notre Dame this week did agree to the new college football playoff contract, but that only goes as far as payouts and all that. Of course, the
Yeah.
SEC and Big Ten benefit the most from that. So not officially expanded to 14 yet, but
What is that? I think they've
expected.
agreed
Yeah,
on it. Yeah, I mean they've agreed
yeah,
pretty. I mean it's pretty much
yeah,
done deal. Even though we never played at 12.
yeah. So yeah,
But,
so we'll at least get 2 years of the 12. We know that.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. And then the other big college football news this week was kind of and it's Greg, something you touched on your Instagram this week. Um, Nick Saban went to Congress. They had a little thing talking about NIL and yada yada and the state of college football, basically. And Nick Saban made some comments, and he particularly told a story about they were hosting some recruits and players and all that. And afterwards, Miss Terry came to him and said, basically, why are we doing this? Like, all the players just want to know how much you're going to get paid, and not
Mm-hmm.
like how the program's going to take care of them, and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, of course, naturally, the online reaction to that focused on that one story, and everything was painted. Oh, Saban, he quit because players are getting paid, or oh, once he
Mm-hmm.
realized it wasn't as easy for him to win, he stepped away from the game. And of course, always short sighted, never actually reading the story, never actually knowing what you're talking about. You just hate Saban. Nick Saban,
No, yeah.
for years, has been a proponent of players getting a
Something.
revenue split. And
Mm-hmm.
he even said that in that very testimony, in that very
Mm-hmm.
conversation at Congress. But nobody wanted to pull on that. I know Blaine texted me this week talking about that, and a story by everyone's favorite Joseph Goodman, the guy who just
Hates
would not let
Alabama.
go of the Brandon. Yeah, hates Alabama. Would not let go of the Brandon Miller thing, and he wrote this whole story talking about that same thing, and basically, and mentioned it one time, but wrote the rest of the article like it didn't matter, like he forgot
Yeah.
that. So if we're gonna talk about this, you got to talk about the nuance of it, and what Nick Saban is saying is the same thing he's done many times over his career, particularly at Alabama, where he's gone on a rant
que-
about a part of
question
the
things.
yeah, question things and about the game and changes and the way the game is evolving and if it's actually good for
Hmm.
the sport. And of course, most times that's met with like, "Oh, Saban's mad," blah 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 blah, and it's not that way. Nick Saban, if he was a younger man, still had the energy for it, he would stick
He
around and
young,
figure out a
yeah,
way to win.
yeah,
He did this when the
time
up
and time
tempo
again.
offenses were, coming up
Hmm.
and player injuries on the rise. He had a rant, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's just mad because
He's
his
scared
way of
of
yeah, his
because they
murder
lost.
ball,
Because we lost to Auburn that
yeah,
year
his
in
3 yards in
2018.
a cloud of dust is, it's going up. So he's mad about that. Like, no, he's just legit worried about the game. Because what did he
Yeah,
do in that? He
he
hired Lane
hired Lane
Kiffin.
Kiffin,
He,
changed the Alabama
revitalized
offense completely.
exactly, and then won three more national titles with an offensive
Exactly.
focused team. Uh,
Hmm.
Anytime Nick Saban does this, say, "Is this what we want the game to be?" He legit means that. He actually does care about the game of
Yeah,
football and
he
college
cares.
football. So his comments weren't whining and decrying all this. That he was saying that it's okay for the players to get part of the revenue that they have a big hand in making. He is
Right.
a okay with it. He wants that. He has long
Yeah.
advocated for that. What he
Hmm.
doesn't think is good is the way the system is now, and he's right because it creates this free agent market, but it's unlike the pros where you sign a contract. Well, okay, you play that length of your
You
contract.
play him 5 years for X amount of money.
Uh
Here
huh.
you're paying you might get paid this amount of money this year, but hey, I want to go to Ohio State next year because they're paying
Mm
5 million.
hmm. Exactly. And
Like,
so now the coaches are having to recruit their own players every season. And
yeah.
if you can't see how that's exhausting for any coach, not just Saban, if you can't see how that's not great for the players, and that's part of what he talked about, like you risk your development because you're bouncing around from school to school.
Hmm.
One staff might have you the right track for you, and then the other staff might want to do something different. So then by the time you
Yeah.
get to
You're
it's
playing
draft
three
time, your
different
skills aren't
systems
honed.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
your
playing
skills
three
aren't
different
honed.
systems. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't get a proper education because you're bouncing around so much, so you don't have a
Yeah.
backup plan. Uh, so yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot to it. Of course,
Mm,
everybody's gonna paint it this way because Saban won a lot. Let's just be honest. Nick
mhm,
Saban kicked your team's ass 100 times.
mhm.
You're sick of Alabama winning. You're sick of Nick Saban winning. So it's you guys. It's time to pour on because Nick Saban's no longer the coach of Alabama. So hey, enjoy your time. But let's be honest. Your coach feels the exact same way Nick Saban feels.
Mhm. But yeah, no current coach is going to come out and say that because they don't want to risk losing some star
Right.
recruit, some star player.
But
Nick Saban just retired.
everybody,
He can say
yeah,
that.
so
Yeah.
he can say that. And everybody's going to say that. They're going to be, and Nick Saban was never uh, had an issue with players getting paid. I think the issue is, and I think, you know, the issue is guys who have not played at all, commanding a couple $1 million coming out of high school. We've never seen these guys play
Mhm.
at the college level. If you evolve into what you could be, then yeah, I have no problem with you getting money. But to command, a couple million just to go to your school and we don't know what you could be, that's crazy. Like I might sound old and someone's gonna say, "Oh, look at that." No, I'm all for players getting paid, but you would have to move up to that level. I feel like you have to show. If you make, let's say freshman year, maybe you make 50,000. That's nothing to sneeze at, and you move up, and then you become the star that everybody expects, and then you get your big, your Mercedes contract or whatever brand is popular in your area of the country, and build off that. By the time you leave college, if you're a multimillionaire, hey, you've earned it. But to come in thinking that, man, I'm gonna get a multi-million just because I signed, I don't know. Eventually, that's gonna it's gonna run out of steam because hey, the biggest thing that I worry about for the players is this: a player makes X amount of money and doesn't live up to the hype coming in. You don't think people are ever gonna want their money back? You know, if someone gets paid $3 million and they don't live up to the expectations, their team doesn't make the playoff, man, people are gonna start not want to give as much money. So, I mean, there's two sides to it because as players want more and then they get more, the expectations the people that are paying them are gonna, hey, we want to see these championships as well, or we're not gonna pay. So, I mean, there's a lot of different sides to it that people don't necessarily always think about.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's just it's
So,
it's a broken system. It's
hmm
usual NCAA nonsense. They didn't put any thought into it. Didn't have any
no,
backup plans for when they lost that court case some years ago.
yeah, now they just open it up and it's an open checkbook.
Yeah, and what you're ultimately doing at the end of the day is you're failing the kids that you're supposed to prop up.
No,
Because it's one thing. It's great for you to get your hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, but once
yep,
college ends up, if you're not properly developed, you're not going to get that big pro contract, and so what
yep,
are you going to have to fall back on?
yep,
And you mentioned, like you said, these guys coming out of high school never seen them play a down of college ball, and they're getting millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands or whatever.
and I mean, and that's of course, that's probably a lot less than what we think because I mean, we only hear the
Hmm.
biggest. I
Right.
mean, there's a lot of guys that are making that, of course, and
But still, if
but
you had
but
handed,
still,
think back to when we were in school, if you had handed me, say, $25,000 as a college
my
freshman,
goodness,
oh,
wow,
I'm not spending that responsibly at
no,
all. No.
and I'm just a regular person. Imagine
Yeah,
if I have all the
exactly.
connections of a possible NFL first round talent at a Alabama or
Oh,
a Texas or a USC, and I have $2.5 million,
mm-hmm.
and I'm already when I was getting money under the table, handshakes and a couple hundred, I was the coolest guy on campus. Now I'm a millionaire. Come on, wow,
Just insane. Yeah,
yeah,
insane. Um,
that's just wild to think about.
yeah,
And just imagine having like 10,000 cash in college at any one time
mhm,
that you could just spend as you please. Whew. Sorry about
yeah.
the crazy weekends.
Woo. But yeah, just wanted to mention that real quick
Yeah.
too. And talking about Blaine too. One more thing he texted today actually wanted me to mention to our audience is that, and I quote, "Please let your podcast audience know that I can't stand Bruce Pearl." End quote. Uh, we agree. Um,
Yeah.
I think there's probably a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah.
Um, hell of a coach, but yeah, not a fan.
Yeah. No. Uh-uh.
But yeah, let's keep it rolling here. Like we did say at the top, we got a lot to talk about here, and we're already 50 minutes in on football stuff. Well, or basketball. Sorry. Speaking of football, NFL free agency officially began this week, and oh man, did it
Crazy week.
come with a vengeance! Just some of the highlights. Um, Of course, Derrick Henry officially a Raven. Josh Jacobs to Green Bay, Aaron Jones to Minnesota, Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, Calvin Ridley now a Titan, Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. Uh, the Steelers got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields to compete for their quarterback spot. Traded Kenny Pickett to the Eagles. Gardner Minshew's in Las Vegas now. Just an absolute whirlwind of a first week in free agency. Aaron Donald is retired.
Mm-hmm.
Just, whew, I
Oof.
mean,
Yeah.
head spinning.
Just
Um,
huge.
what has What stuck out to you this week in free agency?
Well, I'd probably say the biggest thing is just how quickly, last week we weren't sure where any of the running backs were going to go, and then how it went so quickly. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, by day two, all the big names were somewhere already. So obviously they got a lot more respect this year than what they did last year. There's a lot of people questioning, man, why am I even playing?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing all this and not getting our money's worth. But man, they all the big names went quickly. Went to interesting situations, especially Saquon and Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting, and then of course the quarterback thing. So I mean, Kirk Cousins to Atlanta got the big contract, but man, if you're a Falcons fan and you saw how cheap that the Steelers were able to get Justin Fields for,
Oof.
are you a little upset right now?
A
Man,
conditional sixth round pick.
yeah,
That's it for the former number one guy. The
yeah,
Bears got a
who still has a lot
conditional.
of upside, who's not
It's
coming off a torn ACL.
an immensely talented guy too. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, that's. I mean, granted, I guess Kirk's got the offense you want, and they certainly got the play. They went out and got.
yeah,
They
and
traded
they
their
have a
backup
talent.
quarterback too. They traded Desmond
Yep.
Ritter to the Cardinals for Rondell Moore, um,
Mm-hmm.
which means they pair him with Drake London. They went and got
Mm-hmm.
who'd they get? Darnell Mooney,
Yep.
another speedster, and of course you got Brian Robinson or not Brian Robinson, Bijan Robinson, and
Yep.
uh, Kyle Pitts. So maybe Kirk can finally get Kyle Pitts some stats.
Some throws. They let him have the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's interesting. The Justin Fields. When I saw that, and I was hoping he wouldn't go to the Steelers or a team like that, and then now they're going to let him battle it out with Russell Wilson for the starter.
Now I've
I,
seen
I
where
would.
they've already announced that Russell's going to be the starter and he's going to sit.
They have, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that
Well,
yesterday. I don't know. I mean, it's easy to say that in March,
yeah, yeah.
but
And
I
maybe
mean
it works
that
out
might
for him. Maybe
be,
Russ can,
yeah,
yeah, mentor him.
mentor him a little bit, and then I mean, Russ, of course, towards the end of his career, you don't expect him to be a long term thing in Pittsburgh. He's kind of at the twilight of his career, but I mean, the thing with the Steelers went from the worst quarterback room in the NFL to pretty solid one, I'd say.
Hmm.
And based upon what Russ has been, and the potential that Justin Fields has shown at times. Because to be fair, I mean, Chicago was a mess most of his time there. I
Yeah.
mean, he had his ups and downs, but I mean, that offensive line was terrible the whole time he was there.
Hmm.
And
Uh,
I almost feel bad for UFC quarterback coming. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now, but
oh,
just because
Caleb Williams. Yeah, yeah.
Caleb Williams, I mean, what have the Bears? I mean, they still have those offensive line issues. Interesting enough, I mean, they do have on paper a nice little wide receiver room now, just with who they've added in free agency there.
Hmm.
But
No,
I mean, they
yeah, it's
added Keenan Allen. I mean, if Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are healthy,
hmm
that's a quite the tandem. They got DeAndre Swift in
hmm
Chicago now, so I mean, could be interesting. But I mean, there's still a lot of questions, and then the fan base is split. I mean, there's a lot of people that were ready to move on. There's a lot of people who
hmm
like Justin there. But overall, I mean, what Chicago's been is a graveyard for quarterbacks. I mean, they have not
yeah.
developed a quarterback
Um,
ever.
I mean, yeah, since oof, I mean, what Jim McMahon? I mean,
And was he even a great quarterback? He just had a hell of a defense. I mean, he was
yeah,
solid, but
yeah,
I mean,
solid,
they've
great
had,
court, and
I mean,
Walter
great
Payton running behind you.
personality.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
one of the best defenses of all time. I mean,
I
they've
mean,
had
yeah,
what? I mean, Jay Cutler. I mean, he was, but I mean, Jay's a different dude. But I
He
mean,
put up the stats, but yeah, he never
yeah,
really got him over that hump. They got to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman.
yeah.
Um,
But
and
who do we think of that defense? I mean, that defense was sick. I
that
mean,
defense, and then you had Devin Hester, taking
yeah,
kicks back.
yeah, yeah. They
But
never
yeah,
had a
it's
good
just been
coordinator.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, from the outside, I was just kind of me. I thought it was crazy that they were. I thought Justin Fields really started playing well, and
Yeah,
I understand if he might have some limitations, or if you think you can't develop
he
him
ain't
further
hurt
you
though.
won't, but you're just starting over again, and
Yeah,
these rookie quarterbacks are all a crapshoot, and maybe obviously, look, we're not NFL scouts.
yeah,
Maybe Caleb Williams is can't miss in their eyes, but you're starting over again, and
yeah. I mean, he wasn't even
to
done with
me,
his rookie contract.
no, yeah, and you see what they got for Fields, nothing. A conditional 6 round pack, not even a real a conditional one. You could
Yeah,
have traded that number one pick and gotten yourself a boatload of picks or some more offensive line help.
yeah.
I
I
just
don't
feel
know.
like that would have been a better path. Is
Yeah,
keep trying to develop Fields, get a bunch of stuff to build a foundation, and if he still doesn't
yeah.
work out, then at least you have a great foundation built for
Nation.
whoever you get in next time.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
elsewhere, let's see what else we got going on. Former Cowboy Tony Pollard is now a Tennessee Titan. Um,
the Titans, they had an interesting little team going on there. I mean, if
they do getting Calvin Ridley there. Yeah, it's interesting.
if Will Levis ever, I guess, becomes
Mhm,
what they expect him to be, and we never really saw it. He showed glimpses at times last year, but on paper, I mean,
mhm,
that is a possible scary roster. I mean, you have what the I mean, you have Tony Pollard as your main running back now. I mean, the wide receiver room is stacked. I mean, you have DeAndre Hopkins.
mhm.
You, I mean,
Calvin
you
Ridley.
have Calvin Ridley. I
Mhm,
mean, you have. I mean, if Traylon Burks could stay healthy, I mean, obviously you guys felt good enough about him that he was a replacement for AJ Brown. I mean, so I mean that's a lot of talent in one system there. So
mhm.
on paper,
Uh,
they're an interesting team to watch.
yeah. Let's see. Elsewhere, interesting things. Uh, who did I see that I thought was really interesting? Oh, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, former Raven and
Hmm.
Cardinal now, uh, signed with the Chiefs, and that's a guy that I hate that so much because that is
Yeah,
exactly the guy that Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid will use. They will probably unlock his talent, and he's a speedster, a smaller guy, very kind of Tyreek Hill mold. Of course, not as fast. Nobody is,
no, but I mean, if
um,
he gets
but
to anything like he was at OU, huh,
hmm and
in
he
that
showed
system,
flashes with it in
yeah,
Baltimore. But if it's
his
weird, I read
health,
an interesting stat on him before he signed,
hmm,
actually, where the Cardinals and then of course under Greg Roman in Baltimore, they were throwing to him like within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, like at some ungodly percentage. And it's like this is a guy that you send him deep, you let him beat one, you get him in a right matchup, and you send him deep. And I think
yeah,
Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes unlocked that. And,
oh yeah,
so I hate that. A couple of Ravens going to rivals, division rivals.
I saw that.
Patrick Queen signing a
Hmm.
contract with the Steelers. Of course, the thing there is, was this year a breakout year for him, or was it a lot due to playing next to Roquan Smith? That's what they'll find out.
Yeah,
Um, and Geno Smith, what second in interceptions this year, goes to Cincinnati. Um, so yeah, you hate to see guys like that go to division rivals.
yeah.
What do you think about the Cowboys? The kind of lack of action for them so far, right?
Ah, you know. I mean, I understand we didn't have that much money, but I mean, money you can always move around. I mean, you see
Hmm.
teams restructure contracts, throw stuff on the back end just so they make it. I mean, I understand you don't get people, but it doesn't sound like we even made it even the possible call or conversation. I mean, Derrick Henry said no one even reached out to him. I mean, that's crazy.
Hmm.
You're probably losing Tony Pollard and you don't make any type of call.
Hmm.
It doesn't sound like they would made any moves. Didn't even reach out to folks officially.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know, but we I can't even think of when the last time the Dallas even tried to make a splash in free agency. It's been
Hmm.
that long. I mean, we drafted well.
Hmm.
And I mean, you want to have some, you want to build some of that through the draft because I mean it's the cheaper, more efficient way to do it. But
Hmm.
man, coming out of the terrible loss to the Packers, and then Jerry saying, "Hey, we're going all in, man." I mean,
Hmm.
this is all in. Wow, you know,
Yeah.
I
As
guess.
the old Skip Bayless tweet this week. I don't know if you saw that, but
I did. And what's the name
the
said? Good thing for
yeah.
that comment.
Oh yeah, what was it RG3? I think said put that comment in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because that all in
Yeah,
my head.
yeah, woo, yeah. I thought one interesting trend that I saw this week, a couple things. One, a lot of backup quarterbacks moving around.
I
We've
did.
already mentioned Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter. The Commanders sent Sam Howell to Seattle.
Yeah.
Um,
No, we saw
uh,
Jameis. Jameis is moving to
Jameis is in
Cleveland.
Cleveland now. Joe Flacco's in Indianapolis.
That might be good for
Anthony Richardson, yeah.
yeah, that might be
Um,
very good because Joe does a good job of helping the young guys out.
yeah. The
So I
Jameis
think
one, that's maybe
that's
not
a
on
good
the
one.
field, but culturally, that's a big loss for New Orleans. They loved him there. He really fit in with that vibe there.
Yeah.
So,
Because I mean, a lot of
uh,
people think he's a goofy, but I think he's genuinely a good dude.
and
He's
a
a
good
different
teammate.
guy. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a different character, but I think overall he's genuinely a nice, good-hearted guy who just likes to have fun. Everybody doesn't get that, and they think he's goofy as heck. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I think he's a guy you would definitely miss in the locker room
Yeah.
for sure.
Let's see some other interesting stuff. Deontay Johnson traded to Carolina from Pittsburgh. That gives Bryce Young
Hmm.
a good number
Another
one.
weapon.
Yeah, another weapon. I thought the Chargers were an interesting team to look at because Austin Eckler is now in Washington. They
They gave
traded. You
up all their
mentioned Keenan
guys.
Allen to the Bears,
Excuse me.
and they
Yeah.
released Mike Williams too. I mean, there's a chance they could sign him back, but I and I don't think they signed anybody. Right? They didn't replace Eckler,
No,
or
they didn't.
so it's
Good
interesting to see what Jimmy Harbaugh's doing
Harbaugh
over
does.
there. Um,
And some of it, I mean, I get some of that because I mean,
yeah.
when was the last time any of those guys? I mean, when they're all on the field, it's excellent. But when was the
Hmm.
last time any of those guys played a whole season? I mean, it
Yeah.
always seems like two of the three are out, or at least one of the
Hmm.
three. I mean, a lot of talented guys, but man, they could not stay healthy for a reason.
Hmm.
I, I mean, I don't know if that's just bad luck. If the training is bad, you look at the training room. What's that like? Yeah, interesting enough. So we'll see what he does. I would have thought some. I would have thought they would have kept the lease Eckler, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
they just cleared house.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what the Chargers do.
Yeah. And of course, there's still a lot of free agents out there. Of course, I mentioned it, but I didn't really talk on it. But the Ravens signing Derrick Henry, of course, I love that Ravens fan. Love the
Yeah, for
Baltimore
sure.
guys. I think it's a great pickup. I think he's not going to be like he was in Tennessee, where he's
He doesn't have
the
to be.
yeah. He doesn't have to be. He can take his workload off. And of course, I think I talked about this some last week too with the rumors. that's one hellacious read option for defenses to
Oh
deal
my
with
god.
between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I think was it Pat McAfee or someone on ESPN this week called it it's like a Madden
Yeah,
play.
cheat
Yeah.
code. The Madden
So
cheat code. I mean, especially if you're at the 5 yard line and you're looking at
mm,
Lamar, you're looking at Derrick Henry, you're like shit. What-
yeah,
you know,
exactly. Um,
that's
and he
a
gets
great goal line
behind.
package.
Yeah, exactly. And he's gonna have help.
Yeah.
Keaton Mitchell, the breakout rookie for them last year, just brings a completely different dynamic. Granted, he
Hmm.
is coming off a ACL injury, and I think what was that early December, so he might not be 100% next year, but that's
Right.
still a hell of a thunder and lightning. They have Justice Hill, who did have his breakout season.
Yeah.
Former Oklahoma State star, and he's a speedster and kind of a receiving back in his own right.
Hmm.
And I'm sure they'll address that in the draft too. And they
Yeah.
still have some work to do on their offensive line and all that too. But
Right.
as far as my feelings on that as a Ravens fan, of course, love it. Absolutely love it.
Heck
No, he's
yeah.
not 2019 Derrick Henry, but he doesn't need to be.
What's it,
And
20, but even 2024 Derrick Henry, I mean, as people
it's,
want to say he was down last year, he's still around for
yeah.
1,300 yards, I believe. So,
Yeah, he was still second in the league and led the
yeah.
league in carries.
Yeah.
And so they'll take that off him. That pressure will
Oh,
not be
heck
on
yeah.
him to carry the offense this year. So I think that'll
Exactly.
help a lot.
Hmm.
I think he'll probably get a little bit more involved in the passing game under Todd Monken too. So that'd be
Yeah.
interesting. Of course, they still got a lot of fixes in their offensive line.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. What did I want to move on to? Oh, guys still available. There's a lot of interesting names still on the market. Chase Young,
Hmm.
um, a young pass rusher, has shown flashes of why he was a
Yeah.
top pick. Some injuries, he did play 15 games though last season, so maybe he's hopefully
Hmm.
put that behind him. And he's only
Right.
25, so still a lot of football left for him. That's interesting one. Trent Brown, of course, big offensive tackles out there.
Yeah.
Xavier Howard, we mentioned Mike Williams, a lot of good offensive linemen still out there. Jadeveon
Yeah.
Clowney coming off a great year with the Ravens. He's still a veteran guy that can still get it done.
Something.
Um,
Yeah.
Stephon Gilmore, uh, Ryan Tannehill still available. That's a veteran quarterback that maybe some rebuilding team could use to.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham's still a free agent. Tyler Boyd, Hunter Renfro, DJ Shark, Michael Thomas, Michael Gallup. A lot of interesting receivers still out there too.
There are. Yeah. Mike Gallup. I
S-
mean,
mhm,
he's a good. I mean, he's had moments where you're like, man, he has a lot of talent. Um, he's a,
mhm,
he, I liked him in Dallas. I mean, I understand they weren't going to pay
mhm.
him what he commands at this point. But I mean, but yeah, I mean, someone's gonna if you get him at that, especially at the right price, man, and you're getting a heck of a heck of a second or third option for sure on your team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Anything else in free agency that you wanted to hit on?
no, no, I think we covered a lot of it. I mean, it's just saying
Hmm.
it came and hit fast. I mean, that's what the NFL
Hmm.
is famous for, though. I mean, they don't let anybody have their own shot. I mean, it's NCAA tournament time. You know, we're talking brackets, and the NFL said, "Hey guys,
Yeah.
we're
Hey,
gonna
look at this
we're
craziness.
gonna
Yeah.
steal the headlines."
Um.
Big conference tournament week, and the NFL said, "Hey guys, pay attention to us." And of course, a lot of
Hmm.
people did. And so yeah, big week.
Um. Yeah. So yes, like I said, there's still some interesting names out there, and of course, the draft coming up at the end of April. So,
Yep.
let's see. Moving on real quick. NBA this week, nothing huge. Your Mavericks big win today over the Nuggets.
Big one. The
Yeah,
buzzer beater,
Kyrie with a little hook
Kyrie.
shot. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
the buzzer to win. The interesting thing coming out this week is the NBA releasing a report, or at least a report getting out, that there was a directive for the refs to crack down kind of after the All-Star break, and it's why we've seen such a decrease in scoring from that just high octane first half of the season.
Yeah,
When the scoring numbers are up, and pretty much a reaction from everybody out there is why the scoring's great. We love the scoring. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I don't think no one wants to watch a 87-74 game. We want to see those
we
132s to
we've
120
seen that.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've not. It's very noticeable. It's been
Mm-hmm.
very noticeable. I mean, you look at. I mean, you look at even like today's score. I mean, the Mavericks game. I mean, you look at.
Right.
You look at the Mavericks game. You look at like. I mean, 107, 105. I mean, you would think that that was going way crazier than that. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like. Yeah, I, but- and just people's numbers, just what they put up as far as points. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Luca's scoring's gone down tremendously. Playing some of these prize big things, I've been noticing, and you kind of got to start looking at the unders some because some of these folks have been putting up huge numbers, have been a little under. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I get it, but you got to look at it too. The old heads that complain about defense,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna watch regardless
Mm-hmm.
because they've been watching the NBA for 30, 40 years. They might complain, but those are the people they're gonna watch.
Yeah.
The people, the casual people are the ones that bringing in the new income, the added income, the buying, the look for the star power and everything like that. That a lot more young people are part of, and social media generation, I guess you could say. Man, they want to see the big time scoring. They don't
Mm-hmm.
care about back in the '90s, people played a great defense. They don't care about that.
Yeah. And
I mean, old
and you
people are
know
going to
what?
complain about it because that's natural. Everything was so great when you're younger. And
Mm-hmm.
was it, or that's what we just want to remember it as? But
Yeah. Um. Yeah, and another thing, great defense isn't just about low scoring. Sometimes great defense is
no,
about stepping up in big moments. Making the
yeah,
play that turns the
situational
game around.
defense.
Yeah.
Shutting
We've seen
down.
that. Yeah, we've seen that happen in football now with scoring on the rise. And in defense they've adjusted, and it's not so much about like, oh, you got to hold a team to under 10 points. I mean, that's of course that's great. Shutouts are great,
Yeah,
but it's about forcing turnovers, making key
key,
stops. And so
right?
it's
Hold
the
them to a
same
field
thing in
goal.
basketball.
Yeah,
Exactly in basketball,
yeah,
don't let them get offensive rebounds. Affect their shots. Take their
yeah,
3 point shooting away, whatever it is. Make the
yeah.
stop in the big moment.
Right.
That you need
And
to.
that's
But
yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. As far as everything else, everything's pretty standard. My Pels have been red hot making a run. They're
Man, have
creeping up on the Clippers. A big win over them the
yeah.
other night. They're a game and a half behind them for the 4 seed, and 2.5 games
Zion's
up
been
on.
playing some good ball recently.
Oh, he has
Man.
balling out. So looking good. Your Mavs are right there on that line. They're technically
Yep.
tied with the Kings. The Kings own the tiebreaker for that 6th seed.
Yeah. But man,
Dallas
we're there.
fighting to get out that play-in
Yeah.
tournament.
And, it was
Uh,
just good to beat a good team today because, against those teams like a Nuggets who generally fall flat.
hmm
We got a little closer at the end there. But hey, it's good to get that win because usually those are the games we fall flat. We've seen a
Yeah.
couple of times we played, like the Celtics, and we played other teams that are the supposed top tier of the league. Just see how we match up, and it hasn't been the prettiest. So I'm
Yeah.
happy with that win there. I mean, it's March is when you really start. When I start, more or less, and I think a lot of people start taking the NBA a lot more serious because we're getting into that part where
hmm
games are really starting to count.
Yeah.
The season ends in April. And it's not you can't lose that many games because you can easily, as we've seen, you can move from guaranteed in the playoffs to fighting
hmm
for the 10th spot real
And that,
quick in the West.
yeah, yeah. It's Is a dangerous game. Yeah, if you get on a
Yeah,
run, you're going to make some moves. Like
yeah,
I said, like the
quickly.
Pels, 7 out of their
Yeah.
last 10, and
Hmm.
they're comfortable. But you
Yeah.
can't stop. Like you said, you slip up, you go on a quick 3-game winning streak, you could find yourself down 5 seeds.
Yeah. Easily. Because I mean, what
Um,
do we have? Like, I mean, you look at it between, I mean, 6 and 10 in the NBA is neck and neck. I mean, you have the Lakers at 36 and 32. You have at the 10 seed in Sacramento, 38 and 28. I mean, you see not great difference there at all. So I mean, it's a big difference between being that 6 seed and playing a possible 2 elimination games and against great teams in a one game situation. I don't want
mhm,
to see, like we had talked about, man. I don't want to see LeBron. I don't want to see Steph. I don't want to
mm-mm,
see KD in a one elimination game. Hell, maybe even Luca. That's a dude we know can drop 50 in a quickness,
uh-huh.
or Kyrie in an elimination game. If
50 and a
you,
triple double,
yeah,
yeah.
like I don't like any of those people. I don't want to see. Like I'm doing anything and everything to get to that 6 seed, fight and
Hmm.
claw, anything that's got a possible 1 game elimination scenario with all that talent that's going to be in that game. It's crazy.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Elsewhere, just some quick hitters from the world of sports. Women's tournament, of course, that bracket got announced tonight too. Your 1 seed, South Carolina, of course. Uh, Iowa, USC, and Texas are your 1 seeds there. The
Yeah,
Alabama women are the 8 seed in
playing
the
Florida State and the
playing Florida
Texas region.
State in the Texas regional. Another chance
Yeah.
for Alabama social media to troll Florida State. I don't know
Oh,
if
they
you
did a
caught it
great
this
job
week.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're unfamiliar listeners, this week Alabama softball
Yeah.
knocked off Florida State, and
They
the
win.
Alabama
Yeah.
Twitter account said, "Can't blame this one on the committee."
Yeah.
Um,
Excellent. Excellent.
Excellent. That's top tier trolling. Um,
Yeah.
I expect more of the same should the ladies beat Florida State in that eight
Yeah.
nine matchup, and like we said, they would go on to play probably Texas.
Yeah.
I don't. Has there
Which
ever been a 16 seed win in the women's side of game?
no.
I don't think there has. No, it's much
I
more toward the
it's even
favorites. Yeah.
though yeah, I something I saw today like the 1 through 3 seeds are like 5 losses all time or something in the
Mm,
women's tournament in the first round. Like I mean, you're still, you're seeing a lot of teams getting better, and there's not a guaranteed champion. Like the what, the guaranteed few, but it's still a big difference between your top tier and the rest of the country.
mm-hmm. Uh,
There's not nearly as many, especially first round upsets that are like maybe.
so there
Um,
actually has been one 1998 Harvard upset
no,
Stanford. Uh-huh. But
98
interesting enough, no 15 or 14 seed has ever won in
everyone.
the women's game. Yeah. So
Ooh, that's interesting. Because on the men's
yeah.
side, that 3-14 is becoming a more
Mhm.
consistent thing all the time. And the two
Yeah.
15s, this happens not as consistently, but we've seen it. I mean,
Mhm.
of course, last year Arizona was a 2 and lost.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's becoming more of a thing. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
But you look at some of those numbers you were talking about. So the lowest seed to ever win a title in the women's game is 3. That's it. 3 seed. That's your lowest seed. The,
so,
the lowest seed
yeah.
to ever reach the title game is 5.
Uh-huh.
The lowest seed to ever reach the Final Four is just 9. That was also
Yeah.
in 1998 with Arkansas.
Huh.
Um,
It's crazy.
so yeah, the lowest seed, no seed above lower than 11 has ever even made the Elite Eight.
Jeez.
So yeah, and not many times have they even made the second weekend. If you looking at this, checking when this article's from too. This is from this year, so up to date. If you're looking at this, only let's see, 7, 10, 11 times in the women's tournament history has a team seeded 10 or lower made the second weekend.
Wow.
So yeah, that's something to think if you're filling out a women's bracket this week. That's
A
something to
lot of
think
chalk.
about. Yeah,
A
lot
lot of
of
chalk
chalk.
early.
Um,
A lot of chalk early.
no,
I
oh,
guess the most interesting part that everybody's been talking about when I look at the women's
mhm.
selection show, and then of course what's going to be talked about, of course, is that LSU and Iowa in the same bracket.
Oh, they are indeed.
They are in the same bracket there. Of course, that was a national title game last year. I mean, they wouldn't play until the Elite Eight, but I mean that's interesting that could be a game. That could be a game in that open regional. So someone's not going to the Final Four out of those two powerhouses. um,
Mm,
and of course, the
yeah.
two seed in that bracket. I mean, UCLA's had a heck of a season.
Hmm.
But so I mean, that's probably the biggest news out of that. I would expect, I would guess that the South Carolina probably is going to run through their bracket.
Yeah. Who's stopping them, right? Um,
You got to think about. Everybody considers such a monumental upset. Yeah, consider it such, but they lost to Iowa team that was what also one seed last year. And it
hmm
was a monumental upset. Like people were shocked and awed that Iowa was able to beat South Carolina. It was like David versus Goliath, but Iowa was literally a one seed. you know, so, so it's
but
just
yeah, so interesting. It should be a
yeah.
fun tournament from the women's side too, and then
Oh yeah, a lot of
looking
star
forward to
power.
that. Yeah.
A lot of star power.
Um, let's see elsewhere. Quick little news and notes. Some big coaching firings this week. Jawan Howard out at Michigan.
Yeah.
Um, Jerry Stackhouse out at Vanderbilt. Um,
Hmm.
also, it's one of those age humbling things when you hear two guys that you grew up watching play now, well into their coaching careers. You're like, oh,
Hmm.
that's right, I'm getting old. Uh,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
see.
Louisville looking for a head coach. That's
Louisville,
crazy
yeah,
in itself.
yeah.
You gotta think like
Louisville,
two perennial basketball powers in Michigan and Louisville both looking for a coach. That's
hmm and
that's kind of crazy in
and
itself.
another, UCLA is still struggling to reclaim their glory. They've been struggling for a while too.
Yeah,
Had
but
that
they took a
run a
big
few
drop
years
off.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. They went to the Final Four. Of course, we know firsthand they beat us in the
Hmm.
Sweet 16. They've been good under Cronin, but this past year was awful. I mean,
Hmm.
once all that little bunch of people, the dude who's in Miami now, um, but yeah, they fell off hard this year. They were tough season for the Bruins on the basketball side. So yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, they're definitely a team. I guess Cronin. He's done enough to get at least one more year. But yeah, if he has anything like he did this year, they'll probably be looking as well. Um, and then talking about coaches, you see the Long Beach State coach got fired on Monday and then won the conference tournament.
Well,
So
won the conference tournament taken. So
yeah,
yeah, that's good leverage for your next job hunt, I guess.
yeah.
Or maybe a
Well, I mean,
reversal decision. Who knows? Like, how do you?
uh, yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think after you've been fired, you kind of just go on. It's
Yeah,
hard
but
to
say I don't
come.
think you want to return, right? Yeah, like
Mm,
you're
it's kind of
you're
awkward.
instantly on. Yeah, you're instantly on the hot seat.
Yeah, no.
If
It's
you go
kind of
there, yeah.
over, but that's wild in itself. The man. lost what five in the regular season, but then they're able to put it together and pulled off the conference tournament last night there at Long Beach State. Guy who's been around for a while. I mean, he was the Gonzaga coach when they went on their original run back when they beat Florida and everything. Went to that Elite Eight run, crazy run in like 98, 99. Um, but yeah, so that's crazy in itself. But yeah, a lot of big schools looking for coaches on the basketball side. Michigan, Louisville. I mean, that's some big name programs that it. I'm glad we signed Nate, gave him that money because man,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean those are two programs that are gonna be going pretty seriously. I would say to get back to what they are, especially Louisville. I mean, that's just
Mm-hmm.
a basketball school, and for them to be down the last couple of seasons like they are, I mean, I know that doesn't sit well at
Oh
all for
no,
that
yeah,
side.
someone who lived in Louisville for a year, you know,
They,
no, I know they're hot. I know some people,
oh yeah,
talking to them online and stuff. They are just not
hmm
happy with the state.
because
The
they're
state of
proud
that program.
long.
And you even mentioned it earlier in the other program, Kentucky, even though they're a little bit, haven't fallen on hard times. It's been what, 10, 11 years without a title now. So
Man, they
they're itching now.
man, I
What?
remember when I was like in junior high. We go down to the SEC tournament when Kentucky was just running things. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their fans were back then were complaining that, they were only beating South Carolina by 40. I mean, it wasn't good enough. I mean, that's just, but they still have that same mentality. So I
Mm-hmm.
can only imagine how they're doing. I mean, you got to think about how Alabama fans have been the last 2 years without a national title,
Mm-hmm.
without a national title appearance there. And it
Mm-hmm.
felt like the world was falling to some of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine going a decade
Oof. I
with
mean, we're
with
hey.
like a coach like Nick Saban? You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
if Nick
Yeah.
Saban went a decade without a title, I mean that's
Uh,
just kind of and I mean and there's no, I mean that's the most comparable situation as far as what the expectations are at Kentucky.
mm-hmm.
Anything less than the championship is what is
Well,
it? You know?
Yeah, yeah, we knew it from. I mean, last year there were talks at Calipari. I mean, there were talks early this year that he might be on the hot seat.
Yeah,
What? That's John Calipari. That's one of the best coaches in college basketball history.
right.
Certainly of our generation too, of our lifetime.
Yeah.
Um, it's
I mean, it
insane,
was
but
interesting enough. Like they were talking, some show I listened to. They had Tubby Smith on. Of course, he won the title in '98. I
hmm
mean, he had an incredible run in Kentucky, and he, they were ready to get rid of him after every season. It seemed like. so,
hmm
so yeah, they're just and probably they're just one of those fan bases. Man, they're just
yeah.
so whew,
Uh, um,
pressure.
quick before we go, some interesting thing in one prediction article here on ESPN actually has Alabama going to the Elite Eight before a loss to
Hmm.
Arizona and what would be a rematch.
Oh
Um,
wow, now that would
and
be
yeah, interesting.
amazing, amazing.
And then the top odds for national championship are as follows: UConn, of course, the top favorite, plus 400. And then following them, some interesting lists. So Houston, then Purdue, and then Arizona actually has better odds than North Carolina.
Hmm.
And then
Interesting.
after North Carolina, Auburn, 16-1 odds. Them and
Hmm.
Iowa State right there, and Tennessee also same odds. So
Hmm.
again, your top 8 favorite teams according to Vegas: UConn, Houston, Purdue, Arizona, North Carolina, Auburn, and Iowa State, and Tennessee. So again, do with that information what you will when filling out your
Yeah.
brackets. But
That
I
is
mean, a couple of
interesting.
those. I mean, I won't do it. I can't. But playing money on a team like Auburn or UNC, even any of those teams with 15, 16-1 odds,
I
that's not.
mean, that's nothing to
Ten,
sneeze at. I mean,
Tennessee,
that's
we,
not.
we we said it at points this year that Tennessee looked like a legit Final Four
That's
team.
true. And I mean, they still do. I mean, they had a
Mhm.
tough tough out against State.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, the conference tournaments are really tricky, as we said, just because you see State was playing for their life, so they're on a different level.
Hmm.
Tennessee's, I mean, they came in, yeah, they could have got the 1 seed, but realistically, I mean, what's the other than pride of saying you're a 1 seed? Is there that much difference between the one and the two? Not a
Hmm.
lot. I mean,
No.
I mean, they could easily come out as the winner of their region, whether they were the one or the two. If Tennessee's playing the best ball, they could easily do that.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I, yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I guess it is kind of shocking that North Carolina would still be below the people. I mean, I've seen a lot of people on the CBS show and then some of the ESPN bracketology. A lot of people have Arizona coming out of that division, that West instead of Carolina.
Hmm. I
And
mean, and
they
that
had
you,
a,
where is that? West Regional. Is that Washington? No, that's where we're playing.
I think is it? Let me see.
So I'm looking
Let's
for it
see.
now. I had it and I lost it. Los Angeles. That's it. So I mean,
That'd be a. I mean, that's
that's
a
a home.
big home.
That's
Home. That's a home advantage for sure.
um,
Wow. I
for
mean, North
Arizona.
Carolina is a big time brand. They're gonna have people there, but man, Arizona's gonna be
Yeah,
wow.
that's a easy trip there, and then of course the Final Four being played in state too, so motivation for the Wildcats to
Hmm.
play a
Because
Final
it's in
Four in their
Phoenix, isn't it?
in their home state at least. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, yeah, man, that would be right. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah. So something to think about there.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting.
I think Greg, unless there's something we missed you wanted to touch on, I think we've probably covered
Well,
it all.
we probably lost a lot of time there. I was happy as far as Alabama sports related, just how Alabama baseball team in a
Hmm.
big opening SEC weekend victory series win over Tennessee. That's huge for the
Hmm.
program as far as opening up the season like that. That's the thing that separated us from being an okay team to the elite level is beating the top SEC teams in a weekend
Hmm.
series. So, hey, if that's signs of what the season might bring, hey, we're gonna be in for a special one. Still early, of course, but that was great to see us get 2 or 3 there.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, this was the opening weekend of conference play. Um, so that's great. That's huge.
That's huge, huge, huge.
Yeah, huge for the Tide there. Because last year it was well into the conference season before they won a series, right?
Yeah, might win, the Sunday, or we might get a
Mm,
Saturday. Yeah, we didn't
mhm.
win too many full conf- honestly, I don't think we won any full conference weekend series till after the whole gambling
Until the
situation.
gambling thing, yeah. Until the team turned it on late.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
Yeah. The I believe the softball team took a series from Georgia too, didn't they? Or they at least got a
No,
game.
we got a game today,
That's
but
yeah,
Georgia. Yeah, it wasn't
yeah,
pretty. I mean, I
no,
think
yeah.
we got run ruled on
Oof.
one of the game. We got Friday or Saturday. We got run ruled, but we
Mm,
won today. I mean, not a bad week. I mean, Georgia's a
mm,
pretty talented team. I mean, I mean, both the SEC baseball and softball season is just a gauntlet in itself. I mean, you're gonna
mm-hmm.
play a ranked team like if not every weekend, every other weekend, you're playing a ranked opponent. So I mean, there's no week off in the SEC
Yeah.
on either side there. So I mean,
So
we still have
yeah.
a lot to play for. But
Hmm.
yeah, and they start off a little slower, but I mean, still the same. That I guess what it has been for Alabama softball is
Hitting. Yeah. Can't
hitting.
score runs.
Still
Yeah.
can't score runs, and that's not going to serve you well long term in the SEC, especially when you don't have an ace like you did last year. Montana Fouts is gone.
Yeah.
and we're not able to contain as many other teams like she was able to do. So
Mm. Yeah, so rough start to SEC play for the Tide. They
yeah,
also lost their first SEC series to
first
Florida.
yeah,
Same way
lost two
too.
or three there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same way. Lost a close one Friday night, blown out Saturday or second game, and then
and
you
then one
win
Sunday.
the final. So we'll
Yeah,
see. Next
but
up for them,
still
they get
early.
a couple of in-state teams this week and midweek. They get Sanford and then UAB,
Hmm.
and then they play Virginia Tech next weekend. Oddly little,
Interesting.
and then Mississippi Valley State before resuming SEC play at the end of the month as
So
they
good
play
little.
Kentucky. Yeah,
Okay, so good little time to build some camaraderie and
some
hopefully
momentum. Yeah,
get some momentum going before you get back into the gauntlet, which is the SEC.
yeah.
But
But yeah, okay. So I think that should do it then.
should do it.
Greg, what's been done up real good for you lately?
Well, it was spring break for the kids this week. I mean, we really didn't do anything per se, but was able to hang out a little bit, chill. Just stay up later watching stuff, enjoying time. Sometimes it's just the little things, so that was fun.
Hmm.
How about you?
I'll go with the kid too. Taking his first steps this week. So
Oh, that's epic!
yeah, that little, he's been cruising as they call it, like holding on to the couch and tables
Almost there.
for a
Yeah,
while now, and he's been
yeah.
zipping around, and he's got his little push car toys that he'll hold on to the back of,
Oh,
and he'll zoom up and down the house all over. But we finally got him this week, to kind of, he's been standing on his own too, and it's like he almost didn't
hmm.
realize it, and he'll just be sitting there with a toy, just looking at it and just standing. And then we
Hmm.
finally got him this week, like, come on, and so he's taking some steps now.
Nice,
So any second now
nice.
he'll be all over the
Running around
house,
the
and
house. Yeah.
he's already a climber, so
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one thing to look at. We
Yeah.
had
A lot of bumps and bruises coming.
oh yeah, all right, already we were outside with him today, and we got a little
Uh-huh.
uh porch landing. It's just like 2 or 3 steps down, and he is
Uh-huh.
already trying to get down. You're like, easy, easy, and then rolling,
Yeah.
tumbling into the grass and laughing about
Yeah.
it. I'm like, oh god,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
he's
they haven't learned. Because
yeah.
when they're that young, they haven't learned fear at all. So nothing's
Oh
scary
no,
to them.
no, yeah,
Nothing's scary
yeah.
anybody under two. Like nothing's scary to them at all. So,
And yeah, and the moments that they do get scared, like maybe a harder fall or something, it's two
right.
seconds later they're
Yeah,
done.
they've already moved on to a different thing.
Yeah, one cry, then they're good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so that both a very happy, cool occasion to see, and then also kind of scares you. You're like, oh no,
Yeah.
yep.
We got about
Uh,
to all
it's
eyes on him.
it's like I'm already tired, buddy. I don't. You're
Yeah.
gonna make me more tired now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that does it for us. As we mentioned again, reminder: look for the Taken on Sports bracket on ESPN for the bracket challenge. If you win it, who knows? Maybe I'll buy you a Taken on Sports T-shirt or something like that.
Hey.
Uh, look for that. Of course, Taken on Sports. Don't forget the apostrophe after the N and Taken, no G. Just like it's spelled, just like the show spelled.
Just
Look for
like that.
that. Um, like I said, yeah, look for that. I'll post it on our socials as well to keep remind y'all all
Nice.
week to sign up. And as always, thank you for listening. Do subscribe and give us good ratings and all that. And make sure you set us to download. That's always good. The more downloads, better. Even if you don't, you can delete it right after it. Just set it to download the
Just download
episodes.
it.
Yeah. Um,
Pretend you listen to
yeah.
it.
Pretend you listen
Just
to it.
it's
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Well, as Blaine used to say, with his record, just put it on your Spotify at night, turn the volume down, and just set it to replay the whole time. So
Yeah.
he can get his
Perfect.
3 cents of royalties.
Hey,
But hey, yeah.
anything
So
helps, right?
exactly. We're trying to monetize this here game here.
Yeah.
So, along those veins, remember, tell your friends if you think they'd be interested in us. Tell your rich friends if you think they'd be really interested in us. Uh, Check out all the great podcasts on the Alabama Take family of podcasts. Blaine and them are trying to maybe rework taking it down a little bit, try to spice things up there for their TV and pop culture pod. Of
Right.
course, we got the Alabama Slam, talking wrestling as always as we on the road to WrestleMania
That's right.
now,
Yeah,
and
a
a
lot
big
going on there.
and yeah, and a couple big weeks for AEW.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
with Okada and then Mercedes Moné, formerly known as Sasha Banks, of course, debuting there.
yeah. And then
Big times for both. Yeah.
and one thing about wrestling. I watched replay of SmackDown last night, and it's so funny watching The Rock do his promo because he's still he still has that Attitude Era promo
Oh
that's so
yeah.
different
Uh-huh.
than when he was singing a song, and it was. I mean, if you even if you're not a wrestling fan, like just watching that promo last from Friday night, you got to check it out if you haven't seen it. It's hilarious
Man,
because it doesn't fit what it's turned into at all.
uh-uh. I love that he has gone back to that Hollywood heel, the Hollywood
Yeah,
Rock. Is one of our,
hilarious.
of course, he first debuted that like our freshman year of college, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
we loved it. Heel Rock is
yeah.
just the best. I mean,
Oh
we're
man,
guys that like the heels anyway. We were the ones that
yeah,
were cheering in the BJCC when Randy Orton RKO'd Stacy Keebler.
yeah.
And that old man in front of
The
us
old
wasn't.
man, he
He was
was
so
so
mad.
he told his grandson, don't cheer at that." So
Didn't he
funny.
take it? Didn't his grandson have a Randy Orton sign that he took from him or
I think,
something? It was something
yeah,
crazy
something
too.
pretty funny.
He was mad
Um,
about it.
yeah, he
But
was
yeah,
mad about funny stuff, but it really has changed. So I mean,
uh
they don't
huh,
even let like women like, and nothing. I mean, it's changed completely from when we were. I mean, nothing is
yeah.
a. I mean, women don't get hit by men anymore. I mean, Mae Young used to go through tables.
Oh yeah,
Just a
yeah.
change
It's
in culture,
definitely changed from the Attitude Era for
but
sure.
hey, man,
But
and
it's fun. Yeah.
if you haven't seen that Rock interview, his full promo from Friday, check
Oh,
it out because it's entertaining, good stuff.
it's great. And then all like these 8-minute videos he's dropping on his like social media too are great because he's
So
doing them
funny,
in character. Oh yeah,
it's
this is the
so
best
funny.
thing to come from the Cody Rhodes story is the return
Oh
of
man,
of
yeah,
Hollywood Rock.
so funny.
So great. I just if he I need a concert. I need another rock concert. The
Yeah, he had a song on Friday. It's pretty
that
funny.
song, yeah, that song. You remember
Oh,
those full concerts he used to bust out though.
so funny.
But with that said, like I said, as always, check us out on alabamatake.com. You can see,
Hmm.
get all of our podcasts, all the family of podcasts there, and the occasional pieces of writing from everyone. And keep it done up real good yourselves out there, folks. Greg, buddy, I will see you next week.
Yes, sir.